Today is getting a whole lot more and more challenging with finding affordable living. And I want to have a conversation because someone asked me a question about affordable living and what's the best way to do it if you're buying some raw land, and would I go the direction that I went again? And I'm going to share some things. These are only my opinion, and your situation may be totally different from mine, but I do want to share some of my opinions and some of my thoughts about that because they asked me. So I told them I'd do a video because it's hard to kind of put all this into words, far as texting and all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna go over a few things that I found about buying some land, clearing a little piece enough to get back there on the land and to be tucked away, and then getting an RV, putting it on the land, and say, hey, I'm now living free off the land, and I can save a ton of money, and I got everything I need right here on this land. But did I have water? Nope. Electricity? Nope. A way to fuel and to take care of the necessities in the RV? No, I didn't have none of that. Sewage, septic tank, none of that. So with that said, it brought about a lot of challenges. And I'm just gonna kind of go over and just kind of go through that and just kind of share it with you. Down this trip of memory lane. Come on, let's take a trip. My wife and my daughter, we lived inside a RV for over 2 years, off the grid, out here in the woods. This was nothing but woods. It was nothing but just, even though it's cleaned up now, it was nothing but woods completely. But if you're doing it for the lower expense, you might want to reconsider that. Now, let me tell you why you might want to reconsider that. Because you're going to have to live in that thing 24/7, 7 days a week, right? How are you going to heat it when it's cold? How are you going to cool it when it's hot? And for us, we live here, down here in Florida, and it gets hot. It gets real hot. Every day I used to have to buy gas, whether it was hot or cold or lukewarm, because you got to recharge your batteries. You got to also be able to operate some things. You're going to need all kinds of different things that may not work on the battery supply, but you're going to have to actually use it during that time. So one of the things that you want to consider is cooling it. After work, we would get there, we did our routine. We would all take a shower at a certain time. We'll go ahead and cool everything down, get that hot box cool, because it was a hot box. It was nothing but a tin box. So we had to cool it. Not double digit degree, but triple digit in some cases. And when I tell you it gets hot in that RV, it gets extremely hot. Now you're gonna also have to learn how to live with one another. You know, you think living in one house under one roof is serious. If you're out here in these woods and you're living out here in a close proximity, you're gonna really get to know whoever you're staying with very well. Because I'm telling you, the days that it rain and you can't go outside, you can't do anything, and you're right there in that small confined space, and you're there, and your days go a whole lot slower when you're out here in this beautiful woodland area. Because once you tap and just unplug from off the grid, you're gonna monitor your cell phone supply, you're gonna monitor any type of use as far as anything that you use as far as electronics. So you're gonna read more probably. You're gonna do more game boards or different things like that to entertain yourself, to conserve energy. That's one thing that I'm appreciative about it, because I learned more and more to be more mindful of conserving energy. Another thing, during the winter time, when I tell you we froze our behinds off plenty of times, and it had to be some of the coldest winters that they had in this area. And it was frustrating because you wake up cold, you go to bed cold, and you try to keep it as warm as possible, but propane is very, very expensive. Now in our particular RV model, sometimes you think about propane, you just think about heating and maybe cooking. Not only did we use it for cooking, we used it for heating, but it also powered our refrigerator. So even during some times where you wanted not to use no energy, you still use energy just to keep the freezer going, because you definitely want to keep your food. That was another thing, your food storage. Most of the times we had a country store, and every day we would have to go grocery shopping because we did not have, in an RV, you don't have a lot of refrigerated storage space. And you can't just pack it all up because you don't have so much space. A refrigerator don't get so big unless you got one of those RVs that have the full-size refrigerator. But remember, the more space you have in an RV, the higher in the RV, the more power it's going to use. You got to think, you got to look on top of your RV. Do you see 2 air conditioning units? Think about it. You're going to have to power both of those units simultaneously. Now, some newer ones, you can cut some off versus cutting other ones on. But that AC unit, it draws so much power. And our generators, gas generators, they had to run to power our AC. And like I said, charge the batteries. We had to do that at least once or twice per day, because you don't want your batteries to run completely dead, though you have to start buying batteries every so often, because if you keep running your batteries dead, they become weak and they don't last as long. And so you got to be prepared to buy batteries. So let's talk about some of the costs. Every day we had gas. Typically every 1 to 2 days we had to buy propane on top of the gas every day. Sometimes you got batteries. You got all kinds of different things that you got to make sure you take care of. Always be mindful that you are exposed. If you consider coming out here into the rural area, you are exposed to all of the elements. And when I say all of the elements, I mean all of the elements. Expect to have frequent visitors inside of your RV, especially if you're out here in this wilderness. Understand, when you hear some toes tapping in the middle of the night or some scraping and scratching, it's okay. You're just going to have to get it sooner or later in the morning when you find it, or if you can find it. Just hopefully it won't eat away at no wires or anything like that, because out here, when we first moved our RV out here, these mice went crazy. They went wild, man. I was getting at least 1 mouse visitor every single day, and the traps, I was still getting them, and they still kept coming. Caulking and all that stuff, they will find space inside the RV. Another thing, when you're living inside the RV 24/7, as you warm it up, the condensation, the place starts sweating, which also, if you got aluminum exterior, it's going to compromise your integrity of your building. If you're cooking inside of there for a long period of time, I'm not talking about weekend warrior. I'm not talking about maybe once 1 week out of the year. I'm talking about you're staying in this thing 24/7. All the showers, all the baths, all the boiling pots, the boiling water, the cooking, the heat. Your windows going to sweat. You're going to have mold build up. You're going to have to keep cleaning. You can't really use bleach because of the fact it'll eat away at the high-end style RV, which in order for the RV to be light and lightweight so you can carry it, it's not built by some quality materials. With that said, be expecting to hear everything outside. If you're out here in the woods like we were, be expecting to hear everything that's going on outside. You'll hear it on the inside, because that RV was not well insulated at all. So you got to be just expecting for all of these different things. And if it's cold outside, it's going to be cold in the RV, and sometimes even colder in the RV than it would be on the outside. If something goes awry, your generator cuts off and it's 2, 3 o'clock in the middle of the night and you freezing your behind off, or your propane tanks become empty, or they just freeze up because of all the cold air on the outside, be prepared to get up in the middle of the night, in the middle of the darkness, in the middle of the woods, and be prepared to fix whatever kind of problem. If your water hose may rupture, or if anything get clogged, your sewage get clogged or anything like that, you got to deal with the situation. So just understand that it comes at not only a mental, physical cost, it also comes financially. And you might crunch the numbers and you might see that it may not be as cost savings as you may think. Because for me, we bought a manufactured home, and our monthly cost is way, way cheaper to have this plus I don't know how many times size this is in comparison to the actual RV. But our monthly cost is far, far less because of, like I said, gas is expensive, and it's not like 1 5 gallon that'll last you through. Most of the time you have to get 2 5 gallons every day. You need to get the propane. Propane is very expensive when you're using it on an everyday basis. So keep those things in mind, and if you don't have water, you're gonna have to get water, you're gonna have to move water here, there, and if you out here and do what we done, we didn't have a well in the beginning, we didn't have no electricity, no water, no nothing. So it was very challenging, and it was in the heat of summer. And you don't realize how much water you use until you don't have any water. And when I tell you water is so precious, if I had to do it all over again, I would just get me a well, at least. If I don't get anything out here, I'd get me some kind of source of water to be out here, because it was brutal without no water. But we eventually did get the well, and the well was definitely by all votes was in that get water, the well will come first. I don't care about no electricity, I don't care about a lot of stuff, but water is something that we had to have. So these are some things I'm hoping that you can consider before you do it. And send me just go ahead and comment below and let me know your thoughts. Do you still want to do this off-grid living and maybe live in an RV? It can work in certain climates and it can be perfect for certain climates, but there still are challenges with doing it. So just remember that if you're not built for this, you might want to rent one, and you might want to try this out for 1 week solid. No electricity, no nothing. Make sure you have everything that you need and just try it. And even if you don't have anything you need, you will make frequent trips to the store to stack up on the things that you need. So just keep that in mind and let me know your thoughts. So put a comment below. I hope this was helpful. If you are considering to maybe save some money, get your little land, get your little RV, and then just live in the RV. Maybe something you need to consider. Now, if you're doing it by yourself, it may be a whole lot easier. But when you start putting kids and a companion or friends all in one small space, just consider it, my friend. Consider it well. Y'all take care. Don't forget, whatever you do, don't forget to keep on growing. Grow. Till next time, fam.